My son, you receive good in this life, in the life that you live, while now you are in torment. My dear people, today I would like to talk to you about the difference or the distance that we have between God and us. If you read the readings today, it's a continuation of the readings we have in the past. But today I like to talk about the difference or the distance that we have between God and ourselves. My dear people, when I look at the world we live today, there are people who are very much divided and very much apart, the rich from the poor, countries and from countries, governments and people who are under, those who are in politics and those who are not, white people and black people, unfortunately even in families, and sometimes even in our own church, we are divided. And are we going to correct this, or are we going to come to renovate this? And the answer is no. Because if we are pretending to do it with the power that we have, we are going to fail. And that's why I turn to that second reading today, where St. Paul is sharing with Timothy what he himself understands, why Timothy was chosen to be the man of God. Man of God that you are, remember that we need to have love, patience, we need to have endurance, and we need to have gentleness, because that is the only way we can bring people together and we can understand that we live in God. St. Paul reminds Timothy, as he is reminding us today, that abyss that we have between us exists. And if you don't want to believe it, just open the television of the news and you see how the black and the white are fighting, how politicians are fighting, how countries are fighting, how families are fighting, how people who are supposed to know better are fighting, because everyone thinks that they are right, and because they are right, they will never come to renovate, to recover or settle their differences. My dear people, St. Paul today is saying to Timothy that he understands that the focus of this reconciliation comes from Jesus, the one that the Father has sent, that by which reconciliation has been done. And now him who is the glory of the Father is the one that we need to put eyes on him, because we are awaiting his coming. So when he comes, we who accept his message and accept his way, we will go in with him to live in the eternal blessing. In the first reading today, we find the prophet Amos, who also is condemning the rich. You rich, who because of your richness, you lay on ivory beds, you eat the fruit of the lambs and the cows from your stores. You who drink wine from bowls because you have plenty. You who enjoy music like David did. And now you forget that after 400 years, your own people become victims of the Pharaoh, because now they do not know Joseph. And that means that you are going back to exile because you fail to understand, to show mercy to those who are less fortunate than you are. My dear people, these readings remind us very much so of our own life, the life that we live, a life that we struggle to make it. But many times we think that we are going to do it on our own power, on our own terms. Little we know that unless we focus on Jesus, who is the source of love, who is the source of patience, who is the source of gentleness, we are not going to be able to become one as one is the call that we are. All of us, whether we are black or white, we are created equal by God. And the difference we make is because we are the one who make that difference, because we think that we are superior to the other race, or because we are the people who we are special or better off. Little we know that when we show that attitude, we are not going to really reconcile. We are not going to make it in this life. And that's why today the Lord is saying to us many times, it's not because you are so ugly to the poor. It's not because you are chastise the poor. It's not because you are casting the poor or going after the poor. It's because you are ignorant of that Lazarus who is laying at your post of your door. How many times we feel for these people who have no food, who have nothing to clothe themselves with. But to be sorry is different from take action. Jesus reminds us today, as he said to the rich man, you have received your recompense in the world you live. Lazarus now is received his recompense for what he suffered. And that is exactly what's going to happen to us if our eyes and our ears and our whole body is immune to those who are at the door knocking and ask us for mercy. This is the sadness in the world today. That not because we are nasty to the poor or we are doing something horrible to them, but we are not even aware that they exist. And because we are not aware that they exist, we don't find it in our heart to reach out to them. This is what Jesus is trying to say in that parable, that while the rich man who dressed in purple, which is very, as we say, luxury dress, and dine beautifully, in other words, he had more than enough, and Lazarus wants to eat even the scraps that fall from the table. Jesus is reminding us that many times when the belly is full, we care less of those who have none. And this is the sin of the world today. The sin of the world today is pride, that we think that without God we can make it. And there is a lot of things today that really is showing that without God we can make it. They think the people of this world, because we are so big in technology and so big in science, that we are now above God, that we are not in need anymore of God. Little we know that without God nothing exists, even the science that is in our hands, or in the science that we develop. Number two, that those people who are at the door of our homes knocking, at the door of our hearts knocking, are the people that God has sent purposely to show if we really have at least the courtesy to notice them and to reach out to them with help. This is really what the church is teaching us as the church is approaching the end of the calendar. Remember, we are in the 26th week in the ordinary time. There is only 32. The church is moving towards the end of the time when Jesus will return again, the parousia. And at that time, we are going to face judgment. And that judgment is not going to face because we went to church. The judgment is going to face because I was hungry, I was ill, I was in prison, I was homeless, and you remain immune. You did nothing for me. But for those who see Lazarus in their daily lives, in their walks of life, and reach out to him, they are the one who Jesus will say to them, whatever you did to the least of my people, you have done it to me. Enter the kingdom. I hope and pray that we will be very much aware of the Lazarus that is knocking at our door, so that as we reach out to Lazarus, we will reach out to him with love and share with him what God provides us. And I conclude with the word that Paul VI used in Progress to Apopoli when he said, and he quotes here St. Ambrose, when we reach out to the poor, we are giving them what is their right to be given. When we reach out to the poor, we are giving to them what is we own to them, what is by right owned to them, because it is pride, it is greed that makes people hungry, that makes people want, that makes people, in desperate needs. Let us be those people, not talk about poverty, not talk about those people there, but be the first one, that we who have accepted the light of Christ bring that light in the darkness of this world, and that light will bring unity, will bring food, will bring peace, will bring love among those people whom God has created equal in his own image. God bless you.